Good morning and greetings from Northumberland on the 8th of November. Today is Remembrance Sunday, and it's also the first Sunday of the second lockdown, in which we are not allowed to celebrate public worship again in our churches. So first, a practical note about this marking of Remembrance Sunday. Last Wednesday, before lockdown began, we recorded a Eucharist at Beadnell at St Ebba's Church using the readings for this Sunday. And that service will come live at 9 o'clock this morning. And I hope that you'll be able to join us for that service on YouTube and in the usual places. Secondly, our marking of Remembrance Sunday in Sea Houses itself and for the surrounding district has normally focused on quite a large service at 2:15 in the centre of Sea Houses at the War Memorial. After consultation with Northumberland County Council, we're only able to have a very small service there and not to invite crowds to gather. Obviously, this is for safety reasons in the COVID lockdown. We will be filming this service, and I hope it will be available for people to look at by the 11th of November, because, of course, in the UK, we have this double celebration, Remembrance Sunday, and then the 11th of November at the 11th hour. Also today, if you tune in to the BBC, there will be a much smaller version of the service at the Cenotaph in London. No big march past is also permitted because of the situation with COVID-19, but there will be a celebration and a marking of this for the nation. I hope in one way or another we can all take the opportunity to remember. Last night I watched part of the Festival of Remembrance in the Albert Hall. And as always, I was extremely moved by the stories that were told. And they had a sort of greater poignancy, I think, in the particular circumstances of this year. Because as you know, we mark 75 years since the end of World War II. We would have marked VE Day and VJ Day with large commemorations this year. But that has all been lost to COVID-19. And so we think about what that generation, that wartime generation, did for us. And the programme also moved on to look at more recent conflicts like Korea, something I know a little bit about because my father served in Korea. But I want to think particularly about that 75-year-old anniversary and the world that emerged from World War II. I recently watched a programme about the emergence of the health service. And where we live in Northumberland, there was the home of Beveridge, the man who wrote the report that led to the welfare state and indirectly to the health service, obviously with the work of Aneurin Bevan. But what struck me as I thought about all this, first of all last Wednesday and since, is that incredible generation who had expended so much energy to get to the end of the Second World War and to defeat totalitarianism in Germany and in Japan were not content to just stop. They didn't think, oh, that's over now. They thought, what sort of a world do we want? And of course, in the UK particularly, there emerged what we call the welfare state. National assistance, national insurance, the National Health Service, better pensions, better provision for the poor, better education. All these things emerged from a great desire to have a better world. And there's a bit of me that thinks that those generations, like mine, who have come after World War II, those of us who were born in the 1950s and the 1960s and later, have lived to a degree with the comfort and the achievements of that generation. First in preserving freedom, and then in creating a better place. And maybe 75 years on, we need to think again about what motivated those people. What motivated that government, that post-war government, and the way in which even the opposition to that government began to take on those values. That we wanted to create a society where the weak, where the poor, where the sick could be cared for. We wanted to create a society that was founded on the values we find in the gospel. That we wanted to found a society where people didn't get left behind. We need that vision now. We need that vision for our country as we seek to live with and to come through and to come out of this terrible pandemic situation. And we need the leadership from those in government and from those in Parliament and from the whole swathes of our society that seeks to create the sort of community where the weak and the poor are cared for, where the sick can find care and healing, and where no one is left behind. As we remember today the great triumphs of that wartime and post-war generation, let us pray that we, in our time, can be proud of what we achieve in this very difficult time. And may we ask for God's blessing on us all today.